deal with individuals versus team play?
Sure. Well, first I want to make a statement. I think everybody should play both a team and an individual sport, because it really teaches you, I grew up playing tennis and I played soccer, and those are two very different mindsets. It makes you tougher when you play an individual sport. But I think that the mental focus of being not down on yourself when you play an individual sport is so important, because you have no teammate to help you. So therefore, you've got to be kinder to yourself. Very few individual sport athletes, and there are some exceptions, are good when you see them get all out of whack and down and angry. Very few people play well with anger in individual sports. So you just have to, you have to win the battle within an individual sport, and that's you. You've got to be mentally tougher, because you're the only one that's going to be it's up to you. So I would really practice being kind to yourself, and knowing that the great thing about an individual sport is you don't have to worry about some teammate doing something crazy, like the guy, J.R. Smith, not understanding that that's the end of the game and you've got to take that shot before time runs out. That's the beauty of an individual sport. I'm the master of my ship, so I'm the captain of my ship. I control where I'm going. And, I really think that both team and individual sports, it's the skill requirement of what are my skills. People look at Serena or Federer and Nadal in tennis. Hey, what do they have that's a commonality? They have great skill sets. They have great strokes on the ball, and so that is critical.
Excellent. Now, we got about good 10, 12 minutes left here to get to the three main things here after all this time here that I want to have you kind of talk about, which is for coaches. We talked earlier about how you don't follow somebody else's playbook. You can look it over, find the pieces that fit, but how do you help people? How can people develop their own philosophy for coaching? One that they're not too afraid that's way out in left field and doesn't have any, real bones behind it, but one that, again, they don't feel like they're trying to fit into somebody else's shoes.
Well, the first thing I'd do is I'd make every coach write down on a one-page my philosophy of life. What is that? What do I think life is about for me? And then it has to be part of my coaching philosophy. What are my negotiables and non-negotiables as a coach? What do I want my team to know about me? What are the three rules that I have, or any rules that I have? Like, if you take coaches like, Pete Carroll's a friend of mine, and if you look at Pete's philosophy, he only has three rules for his teams. Be on time. Support your teammates, and don't whine, So those are you've got to come to an agreement to yourself of what do I want to put out there that reflects my personality, my personal beliefs, and that my teammates and the people that work in my staff can buy into. And they have to buy into that, or you might as well not even begin to coach. And does the school support that philosophy, or the program, the club that I work in, do they support that philosophy? What is the club's philosophy? Well, then my philosophy has to be part of that a little bit. So I think that each coach needs to have their own coaching philosophy written down, and that starts with having a philosophy of life.
Excellent. What about now after that overall philosophy, when you get into the actual teaching and coaching principles?
I think you have to know this. You as a coach is a teacher, so therefore you need to know what makes up the skill sets of your sport, and then how do you teach those skill sets? What are the main components? Let's take lacrosse. I know nothing about lacrosse, but what do I need to do to catch a ball? What do I need to do to shoot a ball, right? Or throw the ball, right? What do I need to do in defending? What do I need to do in passing the ball? So those are things that I have to have a good understanding of, and how to teach that in a very in a way that all the different learners on my team are going to learn that, because everybody learns differently. Some people learn by only seeing. Some have to learn by doing. Some are better at hearing. So you've got to understand, what are the principles? How do I get them across? And then how do I practice them? People will say practice makes perfect. Hey, we all know that's not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. You've got to have great practices, teaching the skill sets that you know, with the tactics applied to score a goal or score a basket or get a hit. Those have to be applied through all practices to become better.
And you mentioned something earlier too about which I have heard from several sports psychologists, and I have never forgotten it since the first time, which is, you don't ask someone to do something in a game that they can't do in practice. But we seem to have raised the bar, at game time, because it's the game is what matters. How do you, where does that come into play, I guess, in the coaching principles, I guess?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to know that you're going to be fooling yourself to think that something's going to happen in a game that's never happened in practice. Now, in a game, you may take something to a higher level that you've already known because of the adrenaline, the crowd, the scoreboard, but you're not going to do something that you haven't been trained to do. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers aren't going to go out and all of a sudden complete some miraculous pass that they have not tried sometime before. That, to me, like when Aaron Rodgers had those Hail Mary passes, he says, hey, we practice those. We have a play that is the end of the game play that we're going to go through over and over again. So that's what I think I would say to any young coach. Hey, don't think that all of a sudden you're going to have the magic timeout in a game and insert a play that you've never practiced. That's not going to happen. Now, you may be successful doing that, but I'd say a blind chicken finds a seed sometimes. That's not going to happen on a repeated basis. You've got to really understand that whatever you're going to execute in a game, you must execute perfectly in practice over and over again in a row in order to do it once or twice in a match or a game.
Yeah, and I think there's a tendency also, because of what we'll see in the movies or elsewhere, or even commentators during sports, which is, well, kid, you just got to find it within you. You just got to reach deep down and find it, as if, you just, for some reason, chose not to find it earlier. And suddenly you have this talent, you have the calmness, you have the whereabouts to execute something. I think you can reach down and find a little more energy, a little more focus, but suddenly that that's undefined, which is, you're going to have to find a way to stop them. You're going to have to find a way to get through them. You can't just, dial it up. We aren't like that.
No. And Dave, I'll give you an example. In the history of tennis, in men's tennis, people that have looked at competitors that said, look, they're really calm in a game. One was Borg and the other is Federer today. Interestingly enough, both, when they were younger, when they were just beginning and junior players, would have fits on the court. They'd throw their racket. But somebody, parents and early coaches, said, hey, you can't do that, and you can't play the game that way in practice or in matches and be successful. So that's an acquired and learned skill. It's not innate for Borg and Federer to have been, that's within their makeup or genetics. That's, hey, everything is learned. More environment has a lot more to do with how good you're going to be. Obviously, genetics have a part of it. You take a Michael Jordan, or you certainly take a LeBron James, or you take a Serena Williams. Genetically, hey, probably have better genes than other people. But then you could take things and become very good at a high level without that. But you just have to then make sure you're very skillful and you do the best that you can do to your ability. Now, once you have the genetic tools and you work hard and you're skilled and you have great competitive spirit and, hey, you're not going to be beat. That's where you get the Michael Jordans and the Mia Hamms and the LeBron James once you have all those elements put together. But you have to, I think all those things are learned and they have to be taught and they have to really be honed by that master coach, what we said earlier. Expertise takes hours and hours of practice at a high level, and it takes a master coach to be there to tell you what you're doing right or wrong to get there.
Now, you talked about a lot of really talented people just now. So one of the other things that people are, I've got to recruit players or find players, either, if you're in a system where you can recruit from other clubs, other schools, or this is my zip code, or this is my school that I'm drawing from at, say, at the high school level. How do you identify talent? Sure, you look them over at tryouts. Sure, you might be watching games year-round and things like that, but is there a system, something, that coaches can, again, develop that doesn't become let's just say a monster in its own, that
sure.
they can be identifying, but then they're not coaching?
Well, part of it is, look, the most important ingredient of coaching success is the athletic talent of your team. And if a coach doesn't understand that, he or she should not be in coaching. But talent ID and identifying good athletes is critical. And obviously the physical anthropometric measures of how tall you are, how high you reach, how quick you are, how high you jump, all those things can be measured. The other part is, I think, that's constantly overlooked is the sports sense or IQ. What is my sport IQ that makes me a smart player? And it has to be with vision of the field or court. It has to be just knowing the spatial orientation of me on the field and so forth. And the last thing I'll say is really identifying attitude. Remember what I said earlier. If you're playing for me and your attitude is bad, I'm not going to make you any better. You have to bring the attitude. So identifying an athlete that has good attitude and good work ethic, that is so critical for them becoming better. And if you have if you have the physical skills, but you don't have the work ethic and you don't have the attitude, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, you may beat some people, but along the way, you're going to find somebody that's going to be less genetically gifted than you are, but that they work harder and they have a better attitude. They're going to kick your butt every time. So I think that's what coaches need to kind of identify, those three aspects.
Excellent, Terry. And the bad news is, as always, the hour has flown by, but I just really love that, again, the purpose of this show is not to just talk about the end results, but how do people get there and improving, how they're serving others. And that's, again, even the things you described here, these are things that I take these coaching techniques in the office. And offices also include, teachers. So I think that a lot of the way we're talking about communicating, having these philosophies written down, this isn't just for the ball field. So I think that this was really amazing. So let me ask you this, though. Let's close out with, again, telling people the website, but are there any other events that you might have going on or other ways or other programs that they can connect with?
Well, first of all, Dave, thank you for having me. The websites are the Art of Coaching Volleyball.com, the Art of Coaching Football.com, the Art of Coaching Softball.com. We're going to have baseball and other sports online in the future. And in a year's time, we'll also have what's called just the artofcoaching.com, which will be for all sports. And we're thinking of doing a leadership Art of Coaching general type of clinic in Las Vegas next year in 2019. In June, Father's Day weekend, June 14th is the date we're shooting for.